Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. GamedayU after some time off. We are on site, on location, Fort Worth, Texas, ahead of OU TCU. Guys, since the last show,
a lot has happened.
Kyler Murray scored a billion touchdowns against Baylor, and they beat Baylor by a lot. They played Texas. They lost to Texas in one of the craziest games any of us have ever seen.
Yep.
The defense was horrible in that game.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray played well-ish, and they let Mike Stoops go. And now we're getting ready to play another game on the bye week. Ruffin McNeil was named interim. Guys, just go for it. Where do you even want to begin? Just go for it.
Sam, what do you think?
Let's start talking about the game because, I mean...
Which game? We've missed so many.
Let's talk about the Texas game.
Okay, cool.
Because we've had some time to reflect on it a little bit. I think a lot of people were devastated, honestly, after the loss. And when you look at it, I think one thing that stood out to me about the game was that the offensive line got absolutely bullied. I think that's the first time I've seen Kyler Murray feel uncomfortable in the pocket this season. They struggled to get the run going until the fourth quarter when things really started to open up because of Kyler Murray's arm. But the offensive line gave up a couple sacks. Kyler Murray made some costly mistakes. That interception was not a good throw. The fumble was kind of a careless play. It kind of seemed out of rhythm going into it. It just seemed like Texas wanted it more from the get-go, honestly.
It's interesting because you talk about the offensive line getting bullied. The defensive line didn't do jack squat. I got to tell you,
they didn't look much better.
They didn't do anything. Gave over 500 yards of total offense. On top of that, the only pressure quarterback sack of the game was from Curtis Bolton on a delayed blitz, where he was just like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm going to go get this guy. Ellinger's not that fast. But this defensive line made him look like a Heisman Trophy
I was going to
candidate.
say, I mean, Kyler Murray looked uncomfortable in the pocket. You know who looked really comfortable was Sam Ellinger.
Yeah, Ellinger
he
was
had
just
a
like,
monster game.
Snap.
He had all day.
All right, 6'6" guy is kind of open. The 6'4" guy is kind of open too, but I'm going to run for myself for 25 yards.
He could have made himself a three-course meal back in that pocket.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to whipped up some stir fry and maybe even got some dessert in, but man, the defensive line, it's scary because one thing for you, Sam, Bedenbaugh said that game for OU's offensive line was one of the best they've ever played. I don't know about that one, dude. Let's chill out there. Let's go ahead. There's no way of tackling it. The defensive line was absolutely atrocious.
He was trying to find some positives in the game.
Well, his positive was a double positive, and I think it's a negative for sure. I don't know. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Ellinger looks really, really good. A guy who hasn't really ever been a consistently good quarterback. Yeah. I mean, he had 5 total touchdowns in that game. Jordan Humphrey had a huge game. Secondary couldn't even touch him. Granted, he's a really good player, but I mean, secondary couldn't touch him, like I said. Colin John, I mean,
secondary's like a foot shorter
whole
than
team,
him. He's massive.
This whole
the
Texas
only time
team
they touched him was
like
when
a
Trey
team.
Norwood was draped all over him, wasn't looking at the ball. Come on now, son. That's Pee Wee football.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think OU had a chance to lose this game until about the third quarter when they just were playing catch-up. They just couldn't keep up. I mean, they would score pretty quickly, as they do, but then Texas would turn around and just score really quickly back. So it was just kind of a back-and-forth thing, and ultimately, as we know, lost the game.
Yeah, but it's interesting, though, Josh, and I want to hear your thoughts on this because we were sitting there in the game. I'll never forget it. You text me, you're like, hey, you know, they could kind of keep this thing close.
Yeah.
And I'm sending you a text back like, this one's over, dude. There are going to be fans leaving the stands. And then that 21-point comeback, you called it. I feel like I had something to do with it as well because I jinxed them a little bit.
Yeah.
So that comeback, man, was unbelievable.
Insane that they made up that ground so fast. It seemed impossible the defense was going to get that many stops consecutively. That was the main thing. Yeah, they can score fast. We know you can score fast. Can the defense get some stops? And they did, you know, figure something out, I guess, in the fourth quarter. That fourth quarter was a blur. It was like it went from 45-24 to 45-45 in a blink. It was insane how quickly.
And as soon as they tied it up, Colin said they scored too fast. And he was right.
I had said,
I mean,
to one of our good buddies, Brian from News 9, shout out Brian.
Shout out Brian.
We were next to each other at the game, and I said, if OU scores a touchdown and tie this game with a little bit of time left, they should go for 2 and try to win now. Don't play overtime. They scored like 3 minutes left.
Yep.
I mean, that was unprecedented how fast they scored. The defense was so bad. I said this on the post-game wrap. I think it was probably the worst defensive play since the Texas Tech game a couple years ago. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I feel like they just were completely, they looked like they were outclassed. Yeah. It didn't look close.
And I'll say this too. We mentioned that last-minute score. You know, I looked at you and I said they scored too quickly. The other thing I said was Texas let them score. And it was smart coaching by Tom Herman to let them walk into the end zone because Tom Herman knew.
Yeah.
If they put the ball in the end zone, they can get the ball right back.
You know your
very
defense is bad when the opposing coach is like, yeah, let him score.
Yeah, Tom Herman, let's not kid ourselves. Look at the film, people. Tom Herman was like, don't touch him. Don't even worry about it.
It's very easy to be confident in the offense like that and to allow the defense to get a game-tying touchdown whenever at one point they had scored on their first 5 possessions of the game. I think it was 6 out of 7 at one point, 7 out of 9 maybe for the game, kind of depending on the numbers. But it's very easy to be positive and say, all right, no worries, we got this, because you got the confidence. You know that defense isn't going to slow you down.
And it doesn't help when you have Dicker the kicker.
Big Dicker
And
energy,
he's
baby.
so good, it's unbelievable. As soon as he walked out there, everyone knew in the stadium, all right, this one's done. I mean, there's just no chance.
He's just got that big Dicker
unbelievable
energy.
football game. And
Crazy.
it led to a whole lot.
Yeah, okay, so the aftermath of this thing, it seems like we're still in the fallout of it, 2 weeks after the fact. Whether it was the reports that at halftime Curtis Bolton tried to quit the team, got into a fight with Mike Stoops, which he refuted, for what it's worth. He said did not happen, but that's the reports that were out there. Mike Stoops, of course, was let go the day after the game on Sunday. Pretty unprecedented for OU to do that, and something we haven't really ever seen before from this school, to let a coach go in the middle of the season like that. So, guys, Rothman Hill takes over. Do we like it? First off, do we think that it was the right decision to let Mike Stoops go middle of the season like this?
At this point, you might as well go for it. I think this decision should have came after last season, after what we saw against Georgia. At this point, you're already back down. You've got a loss. You're kind of digging yourself a hole. You got to get out of that hole. Why not try something new? Why not try to go for a change? Maybe put some more pressure on the quarterback. Take some pressure off of the secondary and off the linebackers. Kenneth Murray and Curtis Bolton have shouldered a very heavy workload because the running backs always seem to get past that first level and they come right to him. If you can get pressure on the quarterback, stuff the run with 4 men instead of 3 like Mike Stoops was running, all of a sudden takes the pressure off a little bit at the back end and you can kind of compose yourself. You might as well try it. I like it.
What do you think, Madeline?
I have 3 words to describe this decision. It's about time, Colin. It is about time.
I like it.
It's a long time coming. Like you said, you said they should have done it after last season. They should have done it years ago.
Yeah.
Not to sound like those people on Twitter, after every OU touchdown, they give up. Fire Mike Stoops. Mike Stoops sucks. I don't want to be one of those people, but a long time ago, this guy was good, but he has lost it. I don't know how you lose it. I've never coached football. But whatever he's been doing, I know it's shocking. Whatever he's been doing.
You played, though.
Coach Pee Wee.
Moving on, whatever he's been doing, obviously it wasn't working. You hate to do it in the middle of the season. You hate to, with a name like his, you hate to, part with the Stoops. But it was just time. It was the right decision.
Yeah.
I'm happy with the decision, I think.
This is extremely difficult because blue blood programs don't do this, period. You don't let coaches go in the middle of the season to shake things up, especially when you're a program like an Oklahoma, a Texas, an Alabama, a Michigan, what have you.
And you're still in the thick of this thing. It's not like this has been just a
isn't
throwaway
over. You're in the middle of the season.
They still have everything out in front of them.
But that's my point exactly. You make this move because this season can be saved. They're still very much in a playoff run.
Yeah.
They have some of the greatest talent Oklahoma has had in a while. And we've seen that throughout this season. Kyler Murray is an unbelievable player. Kyler Murray is unbelievable. Kenneth Murray on the other side. He just gets tackles every single time he's out there to a degree that you haven't seen something like that before. They have guys to make a really strong run.
Yeah.
You don't make this change if you drop that game to Army. You have a couple losses on your schedule and you think, well, this season's a heck in a handbasket. You make this move because you know you can still get to the promised land, and you have to make a change in order to do something like that.
And you talked about it. OU is in a very good spot right now. If you're a Sooner fan, you should be very excited because in 2015, you look back after their first loss, they dropped all the way down to 19, made the college football playoff.
Yep.
Last season, after the loss to Iowa State, dropped all the way down to 12, made the college football playoff. OU dropped down to 11, and then after a bye week where there was pretty much chaos in college football, bumped up 2 spots. They're right back in the top 10. They're in an excellent spot. They just got to take care of business from here on out.
The team knows. We have Kyler Murray for this 1 year. He is really, really talented, obviously.
It kind of feels like
so
an all-in
they need to make
mentality.
the best of it.
Yeah.
And they did just that with that firing.
Yeah, and this is a very different situation. Obviously, Sam mentioned the 2 times they make the playoffs with 1
say.
loss. The year where they went to the Sugar Bowl, they dropped the game early to Houston.
Yeah.
They have a couple losses on the schedule. A season like that, you know nothing's going to happen. But in a situation like this, in a game where they're going to be favored in every single football game they play, and the rest of the way of the schedule, it's pretty nice. Outside of that game against West Virginia, you can get things
Lubbock
done.
could be tricky, but other than that, the difference to me, I feel like from those last 2 was you don't have Baker, who is the unquestioned, no even debate at all, leader of the team.
Yeah.
I don't know who the leader of the team is right now. I feel like Kenneth Murray is the leader of the team.
I would agree with you.
And Kyler's not that guy right now, in my opinion. He's not a captain. I feel like losing Rodney is still impacting the team. They haven't figured out the post-Rodney thing still.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like in the way is tougher. Even though their ranking is higher, it seems like the teams in front of them are going to be harder to jump over than in the past, which we'll get more into in a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll see what's up with that.
It is college football, though.
No, crazy
we live
things
in a
happen.
world where anything could happen. So
Yeah, for sure.
all it takes is a couple weeks, a couple teams to go down. If OU wins out, you'll find them right back in the top 5.
For sure. So now moving into the guy replacing Mike Zeus, Ruffin McNeil. Two-part question. Do you think, one, it was the right decision to make him over other candidates? Bob Yaco's talked about. Tim Kish got a little bit of push, I guess, little murmurs. Do you like the decision that it was Ruffin, and how do you think it's going to do the back half of the season?
I like it just because Ruffin's an aggressive coach. Like I said, you have Mike Stoops rushing 3 a lot. Ruffin's going to rush 4. You're going to see a lot more Ronnie Perkins, who's looked really good so far this year. They've got Jalen Redmond back. He's back and practicing, and apparently he's looking really good as well. It'll be interesting to see just how they line up. We talked about Buki maybe moving back over kind of to the safety position, playing more nickel. Who's playing at corner? That's something that is yet to be seen. I think after this weekend, you'll get a much better sense of where OU is at. But honestly, when you look at the numbers, there's really nowhere to go but up. Because 5th in scoring offense, 76th in scoring defense. 20th in red zone offense, tied for last in red zone defense. Haven't had a red zone stop, and they've allowed more touchdowns than the 4 other teams that they're tied with. You might as well go for it. And we'll see how it pans out. There's really no other.
Yeah, obviously time will tell if Ruffin, can handle this defense. But I think it was a good decision. Talking to him availabilities, he's very articulate on his plans for this defense. And obviously he's not giving us all his, what he's going to do. He's not going to give us his plans. But you can tell that when he talks, he has that kind of glimmer in his eye, and he knows what he wants to do, and he knows that he's in control of this team.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you make this move to Ruffin because the players love him and they respect him. He's a guy that really cares about his guys.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, you make a move to a guy like a Diaco, he hasn't necessarily had the opportunity to get related to the players. And I'll get into this in a little bit, but when I look at Ruffin specifically, he is just such a kind-hearted but a passionate guy, and he's done this before. That's the biggest thing as
he's
well.
been an intern literally before.
He's been an interim defensive coordinator at Texas Tech, and he did a pretty good job there with the Red Raiders. So he has the experience. He knows what to do. And on top of that, with this experience, he can make changes. Typically, when an interim DC comes in, he's talked about it. It's hard to completely revamp a defensive scheme in the limited amount of time that you have. But when he's done this before, he knows how to put things together like that. So I think Ruffin's going to have a very strong impact on this football team, not only because of the passion that he has for the players and the passion that they have for him, but his experience in doing something like this, and I think it will play out on the field moving forward.
I think this is a pretty good game to start them off with, too. TCU's offense is kind of not the best. Even though they randomly put up a lot of yards and points against Ohio State, since that game, they've looked pretty bad. Sean Robinson's looked pretty bad. They're coming off the bye week. It's another nice addition there.
Yeah, I will say, though, my final touch, we want to talk about a little staff change that also went under the radar. We mentioned Bob Diaco.
Yeah, he's getting an upgrade, too.
Yeah, Bob Diaco, just to give some people in depth who they don't know who this guy is, was formerly a defensive coordinator at Nebraska, and he was at Notre Dame when Notre Dame was an unbelievable defense. But then when he got the job as DC under Mike Riley, let's just say it wasn't good.
Not great.
And a few things that Nebraska have been.
Yeah, so with Bob Diaco moving into the from the defensive analyst to outside linebackers coaching vacancy left by Mike Stoops, this is something to me that I'm personally looking forward to because Bob Diaco, as I mentioned earlier, as a defensive analyst, you don't have the opportunity to relate to the players. Caleb Kelly said he only talked to Diaco like twice. Now he's his coach.
Yeah.
So when you know that, I want to see how the outside linebackers play with a completely new guy at the helm. And now that Diaco's kind of have some experience, from what I've heard, he's like an uncaged tiger as a coach. I want to see that play out on the football field moving forward.
For sure. So it sounds like are we all in agreement that Oklahoma still has everything in front of them and they can still make the playoff?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees? Do you think if they win out, they are for sure going to make the playoff?
We'll talk about it a little bit next in a couple of segments.
Don't put us in a corner like that.
That's a little teaser for you.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
Things are still ahead of the Sooner team for sure.
All right, Sam, before you get out of here, you're going to be back later in the show. Do you want to give your quick thoughts about the TCU game?
I always say we're really lucky every year when OU plays TCU, especially recently, because you got the great great offensive mind of Lincoln Riley versus the great defensive mind of Gary Patterson. This is always a matchup I'm excited for. We saw a good game last year from Oklahoma, both times, again, in the Big 12 championship. This is a very different TCU team on the offensive side, especially with Sean Robinson at quarterback. But on defense, they've got the same guys they've had for years now, Ty Summers, Ben Bannigan. You'll talk about them later in the show. Yep. It'll be interesting to see how Gary Patterson lines them up, because he's used Ty Summers kind of an outside linebacker, then a middle linebacker, then a little bit at the mic, just kind of where he lines them up, and then Ben Bannigan. Bobby Evans is going to have his hands full all day long with Ben Bannigan, one of the best pass rushers in the Big 12.
See how it goes.
You give us our score prediction later on the show, so we're going to take a quick break. Tori Johnson will come in, step in for Sam for a couple segments. We'll hear Spencer's Today in History. I'm sure that's going to be special. And we'll talk more about the game that we're here for, OU TCU. Come on back to GamedayU.
October 20th, 2012, Kansas came to Norman knowing that it wouldn't go well. The Jayhawks had the ball all game, 40 minutes to be exact. The Sooners only had it for 20. Kansas doubled the Sooners in rushing yards and had 2 more first downs by the time the final second ticked off the clock. KU ran 86 total plays and were 12 for 24 on third down. OU ran only 51 total plays and were 5 for 10 on third down. So guess who won the game 52-7? The Sooners did, of course. 2 key interceptions by Javon Harris and a 3-touchdown effort by Landry Jones made up for a lack of a run game by the Sooners. Add in a 90-yard punt return by Justin Brown, a forced fumble by Tom Ward, and a usual Sterling Shepard score, all but put the Jayhawks to sleep. That game ended up being the 16th consecutive conference loss for Kansas. That's pretty bad. This would also be the second week in a row that the Sooners' first-team defense did not allow a point. I'd like to get back to that. October 20th, 2012. Odd day in Sooner football history, but a day in Sooner football history to remember.
Thanks, Spence. Good stuff there, as always, here from him and the rest of the studio team here in just a little bit. We're back here at M&G Carter Stadium, Fort Worth, Texas. Tori Johnson makes her remote team debut. How are you doing?
Great. How are
Staying
you?
warm over there? I'm the only one
yeah,
not in
I'm
a
like
jacket.
trying not to chatter my teeth over here.
I'm the only one toughing it out.
I'm feeling good. But I got a jacket on. So.
Settling in.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about everything that's happened since our last show. Let's talk about the game that's going to happen today now.
Yeah.
OU TCU. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so storylines going into this game. Sam mentioned it a little bit more, but from what I've gathered, the information that I've heard, this is what you're going to see from the Sooner defense now that those changes we talked about earlier have been made. All right, 4-man front. It is coming. Obviously, Mike was more of a 3-down guy. Ruffin McNeil, obviously being a defensive line coach, that's going to change. He knows he has a very special talent in Ronnie Perkins. The young man out of Missouri is going to be a household name. So he's going to be playing a whole lot more on one side of the football, and then Kenneth Mann will obviously be the other defensive end. Now, they have to still settle in who's going to rotate at defensive tackle. Neville Gallimore, Imani Bledsoe, Marquise Overton, all of these various guys. Dylan Falamatu is someone that they're really high on. But you're going to see more of those guys down, and Mark Jackson, they're still trying to find out what his role is. Now, to the back end, this is where things I think are a little bit more interesting. From what we've heard, Trey Brown will be starting over Parnell Motley potentially.
That's a decision I feel like should have been made a while ago.
I agree with you because I think a lot of us can agree, and I've been saying it for a while. I think Trey Brown is potentially the best secondary player on this team.
Very good. Him and
Right
Norwood.
now. Right now. I think Buki's going to get there, but speaking of Buki, he's going to move from back there in the safety spot to his more natural position as a nickel back, which I think is huge. Now, you lose Broyles there. I don't know where they're going to put him, but I do know that back in there in the safety spot, Robert Barnes is someone that Ruffin McNeil loves. I don't blame him. Robert Barnes, guy out of South Lake, Texas, just in the area here, came out as a 5-star safety. He's physical, he's big, he's fast, he's strong, but he's been limited. And obviously Khalil Houghton is someone that Mike liked a little bit more. And I mean, Khalil Houghton's played pretty well.
Yeah.
But he struggles sometimes, and Robert Barnes has just this freak athleticism that you want at the safety spot. So that's where things are shaping defensively, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play against TCU, a team that will try to spread them out and get the ball out to playmakers when they can.
You mentioned Ronnie Perkins. I mean, first couple of games, he looked so good to me. I couldn't believe I was seeing this much on the field from such a young guy. Yeah. But then he was kind of quiet. I haven't really heard as much from him.
We didn't play him against
hopefully
Texas.
in this bigger role that he's going to have now, he'll have more of a bigger impact on this defense like he did in the first couple games. But yeah, as far as TCU goes, Sean Robinson, we need to talk about this guy because going into this season, he was hyped up a lot, and I expected to see a really good quarterback. Needless to say, that's not really what we've seen so far from him. His completion percentage is just 61.5%.
I could do that.
9 touchdowns, 8
bad.
interceptions from this guy. He's not very good. Like Josh was saying, I mean, this team, this OU defense, that is, hasn't really forced that many turnovers this season. Something they've been wanting to work on. Only 5 turnovers. So I think against Sean Robinson, a guy who just has not looked good, let's be real. But on the other hand, you've seen this OU defense make some not so good quarterbacks look pretty good. Sam Ehlinger last week, Zeb Noland, Iowa State. I mean,
Zeb's not even starting anymore.
He's not even a
It's our
starter
boy.
anymore, and they made him look really good.
Yeah.
So this will be a big test for this Sooner defense. I mean, can they make a bad quarterback look bad like he has all season? I don't know. It's going to be a test for them.
What do you think, Tori?
Like we said earlier, this new defensive coordinator, I'm hoping Ruffin is going to come in here and just light up this defense. You know, I want to see more intensity. I want to see them get physical with Sean Robinson, and I want them to capitalize on him. I think he's weak, and he's a turnover machine. And he is young. I think he'll shine in later years, like Boykin did. Like, he wasn't great in his first couple years, and I think that and he was really good his junior and senior year. So I think he's just young, but I think this defense can capitalize on him. And but if Sean Robinson can get the ball down the field to Turpin and Rager, then our defense may struggle. I think that those guys are really great. They're so fast, and
Turpin's
Sean Robinson.
in like his 99th season as a TCU on
Sean Robinson just tries to do too much too. Like, he just needs to get the ball to those guys and relax. So. But yeah, the defense, TCU's defense has held their opponents to lower than their average points and yards all year too. So their defense is very good, but so is Iowa State's and so is Texas's, and we put up 37 and 45 on them. So I'm not worried about our offense. I think our offense is going to take care of business. I know Gary Patterson said earlier this week that he's not even going to try to stop Kyler. He's just going to try to control him. And we know Gary Patterson's going to do whatever he can to shut that down. And I think that it'll work out in the first few quarters, but it's not going to work out for 4 quarters for him.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I'm looking at on the offensive side specifically, well, I mentioned the defensive changes. One major change I continue to harp on. Get Kennedy Brooks the football, man. I mean, come on. This guy's an unbelievable talent.
He has been, I'm not even going to say hot take for this. He's been the best running back since Rodney went down. He's been better than Sermon. Sermon has been disappointing. He's been bad. Sermon has worried me into thinking he might not be a number 1 option going down the line like we thought he might be. Kennedy Brooks, I agree completely. He needs to get the ball a lot more.
As good as Kyler Murray is on the ground, and he should be running a lot, he shouldn't be OU's leading rusher. You should have some guys on the field who can run the ball, so your quarterback doesn't have to, waste that much energy running.
Well, they got to change something, man.
No, for sure. So that's what we have to say about TCU. We got more coming, don't worry. Let's hear what coaches and players have to say about TCU throughout the week ahead of this big matchup with TCU.
It's just one of those games that we just have to learn from. And I feel like last week, with everything happening, I feel like we've been taking it in well and just kind of controlling what we can control and fix the things that we need to fix as players and as a unit, as a defense. So I just feel like we've been having the right mindset, and we're ready to get back to work today and get prepared for TCU.
A game like that really caused you to look back in the mirror and make sure, hey, we've got what we need here. Let's make sure we're all doing our part, and anything we need to adjust or tweak to make sure this team plays at optimum level, we've got to be willing to do that. Just got to be better. But how I've taken it, I can only learn from it and get better from it. It was obviously tough losing, but I think it'll be good for us in the end.
I think we took a few steps back in these last few weeks, and this bye week was beneficial. With the coaching change, obviously Coach Riley felt like we needed new leadership. It starts from the top down. I'm a soldier. I'm going to get a game plan and play the best I can play and try to make sure my teammates play the best they play.
Yeah, no, like we said last week, it was a tough decision, but it's done. It's passed. Our players have moved on. We've moved on, and excited about this week.
Coach Ruff, he's a great guy. From the first day he stepped on campus and the facilities, it was just kind of that guy that the players were attracted to because he's a great players coach. I mean, he's always going to joke around with you, play around with you, but when it comes time to get serious, he's going to be hard on you and coach you because that's just the love he has for each and every one of us. I feel like that's just a big part with him.
Yeah, the biggest thing, like Boss was talking about, was just making sure everybody understands it's we, us, and ours. And those 3 words, there's no I. So it's we, us, and ours. We've been talking about that for a while, and the kids are grasping that. And you see it coming. Tough loss, but a lot to build from and, a lot to grow from.
Just preaching effort and fundamentals and discipline. So those have really been the 3 main things that he's, preached to us as, playing great defense, it's effort, fundamentals, and defense. And then, we, us, and ours, just playing for each other and stuff like that. So
we haven't taught turnover first. Just make sure we be great fundamentally.
We're capable of a lot. We got a long ways to go to get there. This week will be a big step here, but I don't think there's anything that this team can't accomplish.
We just got to continue to get better as a team, offensively, defensively, special teams, for to end up where we want to go.
No, the challenge that we have upcoming here with going down to Fort Worth to play TCU, a very good football team. We all know the history of that game here over the last few years. They've all been pretty tight games, very competitive games. Gary's obviously one of the top coaches in the country. Of extremely talented team, skill position-wise.
Everything's earned in this conference, so they'll be ready, I'm sure, and we'll be ready too. So.
All right, so that's what coaches and players had to say about the matchup. What do we think? What do we think about what the guys had to say there?
Well, I just think it's so cool, like how excited these guys are. I was kind of worried about it. I know other people were kind of on edge after the dramatic end to the Stoops era and him leaving mid-season, Ruffin just coming in like this. Is he really going to make changes? But he's made it obvious. He's planning on making adjustments and tuning this offense up. And I really hope, like I said earlier, that he lights up this attitude. I want to see these guys be more physical. I want to see him making tackles. I want to see him be more aggressive. And I want to see them begin that this weekend by capitalizing on kind of a weak quarterback in Sean Robinson. And Ruffin rolled out this new plan. It's a we, us, ours game plan. And what do you think about that?
That's right. Kenneth Murray told us, he said, we, us, ours is kind of Ruffin's mentality going into the rest of the season. And I like that. I mean, it's kind of like a team mentality, not focusing on individual stats, trusting your teammates to make the plays they're supposed to play. I think that's good. What stood out to me was even on Monday and Tuesday, these guys were still mad that they lost to Texas. I mean, they said, yeah, we're over, we're moving on, but you could tell that, man, they wanted that so bad. And obviously right after the game, they were very emotional. We saw 4 very emotional guys, emotional Lincoln Riley, but they're still upset. And you could tell that they still have this fire lit under them, especially with Ruffin as the interim DC. I think we're going to see a big game from them.
Don't quote me on this, but I think that was the first time that Kyler Murray lost a football game since he actually left the womb. I don't really know.
It's been a long time.
So my stats are iffy on that one, but that was tough, man. You just knew when Kyler Murray walked off that field.
Nobody took the loss harder than Kyler Murray.
No, and you know what? I think that to me spoke volumes. He's not an outgoing guy. He's not going to be your Baker Mayfield.
No,
but this man will do anything it takes to win. And you saw that against Texas. He stormed that group back. And look, we talk about how he doesn't talk much, but man, every time he went out there and scored, he went right to the defense first and said, let's freaking go. And that defense went and got some stops. And they got back in that football game, to me, because of Kyler Murray's leadership. And I think that after the presser thing, one thing he definitely said was, I think the loss is going to be a good thing for us.
Yeah.
First of all, what? You hear that from Kyler Murray? Like, do you even know,
you don't even know
what happens next?
Yeah.
I don't think you know how to respond after a loss. But I think that they're going to really take away from that Texas game. And in a game where I personally felt like they could have definitely won it, they're going to walk away from that. And I still think that this team is going to go on a phenomenal run. I think a lot of that has to do with Kyler Murray and the leadership they have on this team. At the end of the day, they're not taking this TCU team lightly. I mentioned it earlier in the show, the Frogs aren't to the season start that they wanted.
No.
But this whole week they've talked about, look, we need to get back out there as a group, unite as one, and beat the ever-living crap out of the Horned Frogs. And I think that all the things that they're saying are the right things.
For sure. I also want to give myself a quick shout-out real quick because I remember I said Texas was the hardest game in the schedule. I was mocked. So let's not forget
this one's
that.
happening here pretty soon.
They're going to be okay.
Okay.
I want to talk about something that Tori said a little bit. It's funny because the players seem to be generally, I think, upset for the most part that Mike Stoops was let go. Yeah. Kenneth Murray, I know, was mad. He was not happy about it. Caleb Kelly, said he wasn't real happy about it. He was going to miss him. But at the same time, it seems like they are pretty happy about Ruffin. They are excited about Ruffin. It's kind of a weird balance that they're kind of going from Mike to Ruffin. They're happy for Ruffin. They're excited about it, but they're also like, why is Mike gone? It's like a weird,
what's
it's a weird thing.
Is I've heard all week that the fans and the players, maybe the fans don't actually know this. I may be bringing some light to an issue that they may not like to hear. The players are pretty angry right now at the fan base because don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
OU fans definitely had a say in this decision. I mean, the backlash that was received after that loss to Texas was something that I hadn't seen in my entire life. Now, I'm only 22. What do I know? But it was unbelievable how much backlash came. Now, players are very upset about it, don't get me wrong, but you mentioned it. It's weird because some of them seem to be a little happy. I mean, Buki tweeted out.
Yeah, I was wondering where I was gonna work that in.
He stirred the pot, man. He said, it's different when you love the coach you're playing for. Happy birthday, OG, at Ruffin McNeil. And everyone was like,
Delete. Delete.
Is
He was
this
up for like
real?
30
That tweet
minutes.
was up for about half an hour.
Yeah,
before.
but Lincoln said that he deleted on his own.
No one,
For what it's worth.
apparently no one told him to delete it. He
Yeah,
decided.
he just did it on his own.
How true that is,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but
They
that's
have
what
to
Lincoln
respond,
said.
though. They're gonna
Yeah,
have to
it's
respond.
gonna be interesting. This is one of the more interesting games of the season, just for all the insanity surrounding it. So we'll see what happens. So we'll talk more about TCU here in a little bit. We're gonna let the studio team take it for a little bit. Meredith Mulkey's hosting the coverage there back in Norman. So we'll be back in a little bit. Enjoy Meredith here after the break.
Welcome back to GamedayU. I'm your host with the in-studio team, Meredith Mulkey. I'm joined by Christian Nunley, William Soule, and Spencer Royce today. Guys, how excited are you to be back after 2 weeks off of the show?
Very excited. It's been way too long bye week, you know. I enjoy the bye week, but I'm glad to be back.
Last time I was sitting at this desk, I haven't left since then. I've just been sitting here waiting for the next show. I didn't go to class, didn't do anything. I just sat here and I was like, can't wait to be back. So it's a good day for me personally. I get to talk to people.
So you use the bathroom in between there, or you just got
I got something. I got a situation. It's cool.
Don't ask questions.
All right.
We're just ready to get this bread.
All right, well, let's get into our 2-minute drill. We're going to ask you guys, what one-loss team do you believe still has a chance to run the table? Spencer, who do you have?
Well, if you like the team and they were a good team, and I told you that after tonight's game when they play against Washington State, who's ranked 25th, but they give up a lot of points, you get to play teams such as Arizona, UCLA, Utah, Arizona State, Oregon State. You'd probably think, wow, that team probably will win all those games because every team you just listed is garbage. And that's why I'm picking the Oregon Ducks to be my one-loss team that I think can run the table. They play one more team that is ranked, like I said, Washington State this week. Justin Herbert has flown to the top of many draft boards. He has 1,600 yards, 17 touchdowns, and he had 3 interceptions through his first 2 weeks. And he's really shored that up. He only has 4 interceptions on the season now. So they have scored 30-plus points in every single game that they have played, and they scored exactly 30 against Washington's stingy defense. So I think that with the teams they have left in their schedule in that very weak Pac-12 conference, the offensive firepower they have, and Justin Herbert playing better than he has played yet and continuing to get better and better as he moves towards the NFL draft, I think that Oregon will run the table and just remain with one loss.
He's a guy who picked up a lot of steam throughout this season as an NFL draft scout. And it's unfortunate for Oregon as they lose to Stanford in a game they should have easily won.
Yeah,
so
they should have no losses right now. They were up 24-7.
Yeah,
it's a heartbreaker.
Yeah,
it's a heartbreaker at Stanford. And an Oregon team that, like you said, has a schedule easier than Clemson's, could easily see them running the table. But their off-season or their non-conference schedule is so weak. They have no margin for error at this point.
No.
I guess I'll take it from there. Sooners fans, after the loss to Texas, were real hum and glum. They were real sad. Season's over. In the immortal words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Oklahoma has followed this pattern before. Baker Mayfield's first season, lost to Texas. Where do we end up? College football playoff. Last season, on almost the exact same day, a day later, we lost to Iowa State. Where did we end up? The college football playoff. Oklahoma has the number 2 scoring offense in the country. No one's surprised by that. The defense needs to shape up, but an 87% red zone scoring from this offense, 21% chance to make the playoff by the ESPN playoff predictor. This team is far from dead. They have a couple more tests on the schedule. West Virginia on a Friday in Morgantown is going to be a real tough matchup. But if you think for even a second that this Sooners team is out, then I think you know what you're talking about.
Got another thing coming.
Yeah, I mean, with that defense, though, I feel like every team you play against is going to be a test.
Oh, it'll be a test for sure every single time, but I think this team's up to it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I guess it's my turn. I'm going to take my one-loss team as LSU. This team suffered a loss early, and maybe a lot of people wouldn't agree with me, seeing as though their schedule gets a lot tougher throughout the season. They got Mississippi State, Alabama, A&M at Kyle Field. They've got a tough one, but this LSU defense is amazing. They force turnovers. They get touchdowns off those turnovers. It seems oftentimes when they get a turnover, they're going down and scoring points off that, which is essential here in this league. They're only allowing 16.9 points per game. This defense is electric. I'm a big fan. Although Joe Burrow hasn't had the best year, he's got sacked 16 times, 4 games of the season. He's had a completion percentage of less than 50. So, I mean, I'm not entirely sold on him, but I believe this LSU team is good enough to where they can potentially win out this season. And they play Alabama in Baton Rouge. They're going to give Alabama a run for their big game in 2 weeks.
I mean, you know a team's good. Like you said, Burrow hasn't had to be good. And everything he has around him has been solid enough to where they are a top 10 team in America. In college football, they're a top 10 team, and their quarterback doesn't really have to do anything during the game other than just stand up and not throw in interceptions, which sometimes might be harder than it looks. But
it's a lot easier said
when you
than
run the
done.
ball that much,
Yeah.
you're not going to have that much opportunity to make mistakes.
And if you can go into that game against Alabama, Joe Burrow, like you said, hasn't had a great season. He doesn't even need to have a good game. He just needs to have a decent game, and this LSU team has a chance. Like you said, their defense is amazing, and that's how the SEC is built, on their defense. Concerning the offensive line, normally another staple of an SEC-built team, has been suspect, like you said, with 16 sacks. But if they can hold up against that talented Alabama front seven, they've definitely got a shot in that, what will be an electric home crowd in Baton Rouge.
It reminds me of Hornibrook last year with that Wisconsin team that was very solid. He was just throwing 5-yard outs all year and just reaping the benefits.
Whatever's needed, honestly, you don't need excellent quarterback play when you've got a defense like that. And I'm excited to have 2 weeks come down and we get to see LSU, Bama. It's exciting. It's exciting.
God forbid they lose before then.
Oh, hey, Mississippi State's good. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see.
Definitely have the hardest road to the college football playoff does LSU. Of the teams that we mentioned, like not only do they have to play Alabama, they have to play LSU, and then they'd have to go to a SEC title game if they were to beat Bama, and most likely play Georgia again, or Georgia again after a solid performance this week. So,
hey, they've shown they can handle them, so they've got their work cut out for the rest of the season.
All right, well, that's all we have for our 2-minute drill, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We have one of our favorite Game Day Use segments now, 3 and Out. I'm going to hit you guys with 3 questions. First of all, starting with the Pac-12. Are they out of the playoff race?
N-O. Because
what does that spell?
No.
I'm not good with words.
Took me a little bit.
Every team has like 5, 6, 7 games left. So to rule any conference out now is ludicrous. You can't do that. There's so much more football left to be played. I already talked about I think Oregon's going to run the table. I think that they are going to be able to work through that schedule, that very easy schedule. And you get a Big 12 team with 2 losses, and you get a Notre Dame team with the loss, then a 1-loss Pac-12 team could be put into that playoff. So to rule them out right now just doesn't really make any sense because the ACC is arguably just as weak. No one in the Big 12 can play defense. Right now, the Big Ten is by far the Big Ten and the SEC are the best conferences in football, and then the gap between those 2 and the other 3 Power 5 is huge for me. And any of the 4 conferences can get in, and there's no reason to think that can't still happen. So I'm going to say no.
I'm going to disagree with you, Spencer. I think you can hang a big old done chain on the Pac-12. Their best chance was Washington, and Washington is done. Stanford was another contender to start the season, and they are done. Oregon, sure, they might hang around for a little bit, but we're going to get to this later in the show. Watch out for Mike Leach in primetime, baby. Tonight's game against Washington State is going to be a big L for Oregon. Washington hasn't looked good all year. I mean, they looked okay against Auburn in a tight game, but Jake Browning has been disappointing. Oregon has looked good, and they beat Washington in a heartbreaker, but I think another loss is on the cards for the Ducks later in the season. Stanford and Bryce Love have honestly been one of my biggest disappointments. I thought Bryce Love was a shoo-in for the Heisman at some point this year, and he really hasn't done anything. He's been not eliminated from the Heisman contention. I just think they've got to be done.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on this one here, Sule. I don't know. I mean, inside the Pac-12, they've got great competition. They're battling each other out. But outside, it's just, as you said, the discrepancy is way too big. They aren't playing well. Oregon, they've got their best chance, but they've got a loss on the season to Stanford, which is turning out to be an even worse loss on the season. Don't get me wrong. They're still good, but I think they're out.
I mean, how many conferences would you say right now are great, and how many are or you wouldn't say are very good?
I say Big Ten they're kind of suspect. I'm not entirely
Would you say you say the SEC is the only good one?
Yeah, I'd say
so
they're
then
the only dominant conference.
How can you rule out any of them then, unless you put 4 SEC teams in?
I'm not going to put in 4 SEC teams, but I'm going to say there's going to be 2 SEC. We'll talk about this later. I'm not going to completely discuss everything now, so that's a teaser for later. Stay tuned. But I still think Pac-12's out.
So you don't think that anything can change in six weeks?
I mean, 6 weeks is a lot of time. Don't get me wrong.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't think you can rule it out.
I mean, it's not impossible, and nothing's impossible with college football. But I think with the presence of Notre Dame there, I think they put a 1-loss Notre Dame in over a 1-loss Oregon.
Even with that conference title game?
I think they do. I think that's how much they love Notre Dame. And with a win over Michigan, they're going to get wins over Stanford. And if Notre Dame runs the table, theoretically a win over USC, Pac-12 opponents of Oregon. That win over Stanford is huge for me. The playoff committee loves to look at similar matchups, so that's a really telling loss for Oregon, unfortunately.
If USC loses to Notre Dame, though, they won't have to play Oregon.
No. Notre Dame's not losing the rest of the season, but
I don't think so either.
All right, well, everybody's against Spencer, but we'll see. All right, second question, number 6, Michigan. Do we think they're legit? Spencer?
I guess they're legitimately a pretty good football team. They're legitimate enough to finish second in their division in the Big Ten. That's, I guess, if you want to call that legit, that's legit. They're very strong. Ohio State's much stronger, in my opinion. Their defense is great. It's very, very good. It's one of the best defenses I've seen this year. They've only allowed over 20 points one time. And Karan Higdon, nearly 700 rushing yards already. But the thing that has been hard for me is they don't really have any wide receiver skill. A tight end leads their team in receiving. He only has 21 receptions. He has 21 receptions, 311 yards, 1 touchdown. His name is Zach Gentry, and he's their leading receiver. So that's a red flag for me, and I think Ohio State's going to actually work them over. But I think they bounced back, and I thought they weren't going to be that great after they suffered a loss early. So I'm impressed with the way they've been playing, and I do think they are legitimately a good team, but I don't think they're legit enough to put them in a legit column, if that makes sense. Like you can't just forget about them because they're very solid, but they're not a team where you're like, yeah, I'm ready to see them at the end of the year. So.
And I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think Michigan is a really good football team. Yeah. They are not a great football team. They have had demons in the past, and that demon is named Ohio State. Urban Meyer and John Harbaugh, in their 3 meetings since John Harbaugh got hired, Harbaugh has lost all 3 of those meetings.
And those khakis, taking L's in those khakis.
Those khakis were not looking too pretty. Shea Patterson, he's played well. He's played better than a lot of previous Michigan quarterbacks, but he's not going to be able, Ohio State is a wagon. Ohio State is going to run the table, or maybe not run the table, but they are going to be the clear favorite in the Big Ten the rest of the way. Probably get into the CFP themselves. I don't think Michigan can get the monkey out their back this year. Maybe in the future, and Harbaugh, you kind of have him on the hot seat right now because if he keeps losing to Ohio State, people are going to get angrier and angrier up in Michigan, but it's hard to see them firing him per se. But if he can't figure it out and beat Ohio State, then they're never going to be great.
It's hard to out-recruit that.
Yeah.
It's hard to out-recruit Ohio State in the Big Ten. Like, they win.
It's Ohio State.
They're so good every year. If you're a good player that wants to play in that conference, in that environment, and you're good enough to play at Ohio State, you'd be a fool not to choose the school. So I feel for Harbaugh. It's going to be very hard. Urban Meyer is a demon, too, so it's going to be hard to knock him off.
Hey, hopefully Urban Meyer isn't watching. No shade towards him. I think Michigan's legit. I do. As you guys have said, though, I don't think it means necessarily a postseason potential for them in the future. Yeah. You know, they're a legit team, but I don't know what that means towards the end of the season. I don't know if that means they're going to make the Big Ten championship. I don't know what that means. And it seems like they can never really get past the lump of Ohio State. It's hard to watch. I believe this game's in Ann Arbor this year, so, I mean, they've got that chance, but I do think this Michigan team is good. They, as you said, their defense, disgusting. They only allow 15.4 points per game as an opponent. Shea Patterson has really kind of folded into a dual-threat quarterback mold. He's got – I'm a big guy on completion percentage. You know, get the ball into your guys' receivers' hands, pitch and catch, make it easy. He's got 68.4% on that. They had an loss to Notre Dame earlier in the season, and that's looking a whole lot better as of now, and I believe Notre Dame's going to go undefeated. They got a tough slate of games coming up, but I think if they can kind of work their way through it, they'll be all right.
And like you said, their defense is amazing, and they've played really, really well up until this point, but you have to take that into account. They haven't played an offense as electric as Ohio State's is. They have a good quarterback in Dwayne Haskins this year, and it'll be interesting to see when that time comes this year.
I agree.
We got a tough game today. We got to wait.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't
discount
rivalry games. As any OU fan will tell you, you can't discount rivalry games. As bad as Michigan State has looked at times this year, they've also looked really good at other times.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah, Michigan's definitely improved this season, but I think with Ohio State coming up, I don't know that they can get that done. But next question, how many unbeaten teams do you guys think there will be at the end of the regular season?
I think I'm going to be in a different boat than them again, and it's hard for me to say this, but I think there's actually going to be four. Four of them. Ooh. Count them. All my four. You see four of my fingers? Do I even have a thumb? I don't know. 4 fingers are up right now. And I think it's the top 4 ranked teams right now that are my 4. You have Alabama, who is the best team in the world, one of the best college football teams I've ever seen in my life this year. Ohio State right behind them, Clemson and Notre Dame. Now, do I think Clemson and Notre Dame are solid and stacked? I think they're very good teams. And do I think they're worthy of being in the Final Four? I really don't know. But I look at their schedules and I'm like, who are they going to lose to? Who's going to beat those teams? Now, of course, it's college football and we all know anything can happen. But I'm not going to be able to look at their schedule and pick a team like that team's going to beat them. I'm willing to say, yeah, they could definitely suffer a loss, but I'd be a fool to pick which team because all the teams they play are not very good. They're not good teams, so you can't pick against them. They're going to be favored in every game they play the rest of the year. So if all 4 of these teams win out, and what's crazy is Alabama will play the toughest team out of all 4, but luckily for them, they're so good it really probably, I don't know. I don't think it's going to matter. But yeah, they all 4 win out. Those are the 4 teams that are going to be in the playoff at the end of the day, I think. And like that's easy money. The schedules are all out in front. All they have to do is just keep winning.
I don't know. I think Clemson's got their work cut out for them. Sule?
This week, yeah.
I'm going to, again, disagree with you, Spencer. But I will agree with you on one thing. Alabama is easily going to go undefeated. I don't think they have anyone who can challenge them. I mean, LSU will challenge, but there hasn't been, since 1949 was the last time 4 teams went unbeaten in the NCAA. Craziness happens in college football. But the difference this year for Alabama than last year, Tua Tagovailoa, he is incredible. It's honestly kind of annoying because Alabama in recent years has always had the problem that their quarterback play has been subpar, but their defense and their running game has been incredible. People want to give it all to Tua though, and honestly, they run the ball 61% of the time. They still run the ball. They're still the bread and butter Alabama that they've always been, but they also have a guy who can blow it open over the top. And that is an incredible combination that you usually don't see on that level in college football.
I think Bama's got their work cut out for them with LSU in 2 weeks, but we'll see in 2 weeks when that day comes. But my undefeated team is going to have to be Notre Dame. I think after
the only one you got?
Yeah, wow. That's it. Period.
So,
hot take.
I think Clemson's
so
losing.
Y'all both have one undefeated team left, but the Pac-12's done?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I see your math.
Oregon still got their work cut out for them. Don't think that they're going to slide in or who else. I'm not sure who else in the Pac-12 would even contend for a spot in the college
a couple
football
teams
playoff
with 2 losses are going to take 1 loss.
I disagree with you on that one. I just think this Notre Dame team is amazing. Now that they've got Ian Cook in there, Winbush was just not it for this team. And not it for this team. And now that they've got a quarterback in here who can just run around in the pocket, throw dimes on the run, this team is complete. They've only got Navy, Northwestern, Florida State, Syracuse, and USC left. They won't be tested at all. They'll slide right into the college football playoff, I think, at that 3 spot and be just fine. Maybe even 2, honestly, if Bama and Clemson end up losing. Clemson's got a tough one.
Yeah, but we both agree then that Clemson loses at some point. And we'll get to this later, it could be NC State. But I just have this feeling that with Trevor Lawrence banged up a little bit, I don't see them going the distance. I still think they make the college football playoff, but I just don't see them going undefeated to get there.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sold on Trevor Lawrence yet. He needs to prove himself today.
I want to see him play a full game with no like ghost of Kelly Bryant while he's fully healthy. That might be too much to ask for this year. Who knows? He could be banged up the entire season. But like I said, I look at their schedule. Of course, NC State's going to be tough. NC State has been very good this year. Surprised everybody. But who would you honestly pick to beat any of the top 4 teams right now looking at their schedule? Honestly, you pick a team, like an actual team.
Bama's losing to LSU.
They are?
That. I'm confident on that.
How'd you find that out?
Nope.
Hey, I just know stuff.
I know people. He's got a crystal ball. He can see into the future.
Yeah,
That'd be dope.
Clemson's losing today to NC State.
Be better.
I don't know. If they're able to put as much emphasis on the running game as need be, Travis Etienne's disgusting. So if they're able to feed him the rock and let him get going, they got a chance. Your other unbeaten team was Clemson, Alabama,
Ohio State.
and Ohio State.
Who's going to beat them?
Ohio State. They still got Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Michigan in the big house.
Yeah, they've got Michigan in the big house. They got the work
They
cut out
still
for
got
them.
Michigan State, who have proven to be a thorn in their side in previous years. Granted, they're not as top caliber as they have been in previous years, but they're still going to be a tough loss.
Didn't Ohio State go into Happy Valley and work that pretty? Didn't they win?
All right, Penn State.
Well, they won, but it was close.
That's not saying much. Look at Penn State. I'm not
Penn
sold.
State's better than Michigan and Michigan State.
I disagree.
Michigan State beat Penn State.
Hmm?
Michigan State beat Penn State last week.
Michigan State is, I mean, they're not. You just said they're not that good.
I know. You don't have to be good to win a football game. One singular.
Against
football.
Ohio State, you have to be pretty good.
Hey, sometimes you need a little bit of luck and good. Just sprinkle a little bit of luck on there, and you've got to win. So I don't think Ohio State's pulling it out. Dwayne Haskins is nice. Don't get me wrong. He's cold. That dude's cold. But I still don't think they go undefeated. I think they got a chance to slide in the playoff, but they're not going undefeated this year.
Spencer, I don't know. I kind of agree with you. I think the top 4 teams right now, I don't really see anybody that's going to beat them in the rest of the schedule.
Do I want 4 undefeated teams? No, not at all. That's weird. That doesn't make sense. I feel like you should have some parity, you know? I feel like you should have levels, not just 4 unbeatens are in and then it's anybody's game. Of course, I still think Alabama is a tier in their own. Like it's Alabama and then tier 1. Alabama's in heaven.
Alabama and the rest of college football.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want that to happen, but like I said, I'm not just going to look at the schedule and be like, yeah, that's the game where they lose, because on paper they're better than every team they play against, the top 4 teams.
And I think that works into the advantage of the underdogs, though. Like when you don't expect it is when college football strikes, and that's
I mean the team that's playing just has to expect it, and they'll be okay.
And granted, they have good coaching at Clemson, they have good coaching at Notre Dame, but it just seems like every year Clemson, even in the national championship year, had the loss to Pitt that really threw everybody off. Do I think they're still going to go to the college football playoff? Yes, and we'll get to that later, but I don't think they go undefeated just because I honestly think some of these coaches would love a loss. And like they're not going to come out and say that, but I think they like having that one marquee loss in the season because like OU's done it before. They can learn a lot from that loss and it motivates their team. So we'll see what happens, and craziness always happens in college football, but I just don't see anybody but Bama having the skill to do it.
All right, well, that's all we have for now. We're going to send it back to our team in Fort Worth. Stay with us.
Welcome back in M&G Carter Stadium, Fort Worth, Texas. Just a couple hours away from Oklahoma, TCU. Here, baseball play resumes after a couple weeks off. Let's continue our discussion about TCU, what we're looking for, scouting the opponent a little bit here. Mal, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so the Horned Frogs, they're 3-3 on the season. Their defense, pretty good, 29th out of 130 FBS teams. Offense, as Tori said earlier, not so good. 71st, just over 28 points per game for them, which is pretty good, but for the Big 12, that's not so good when you have your opponent putting up a lot of points as well. So, like I said, this team's 3-3. They've lost 3 of their last 4, but that one win was just a 3-point win over Iowa State. So, I mean, really, they haven't looked good. And it's funny, you know, we were in Ames in a restaurant sitting there watching on TV Ohio State TCU play, and we were like, can TCU win this game?
They had it. They had a lead in the second half of that game.
They did. They looked really good.
Yeah.
Ohio State, as we know, pulled away, but we were like, all right, this team might be the real deal. You know, we were talking about how OU was going to have a probably really tough game today, playing them. But then ever since then, their offense especially has really dropped off. Let me read to you total points scored for them in all their games this season, starting with their first game to their last game. 55, 42, 28, 16, 17, 14.
So they're getting worse.
They're getting worse. A clear regression. And then I don't know if you blame Sean Robinson for that, who, as we mentioned earlier, has not been very good. He's got a lot of offensive weapons. I think we talk about Rager and Turpin through the air, and then Darius Anderson and Shayla Alalua on the ground. Two guys who can run the ball pretty well. So I don't know if you put that on Sean. I don't know. But clearly this offense is getting worse, and I don't know if they're going to get better anytime soon.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, I've already talked about poor little Sean Robinson. Gary Patterson also said that he may try to rotate quarterbacks against OU. He's really worried that he'll hurt Robinson's confidence, but I think all the turnovers that he has probably does that itself. So yeah, you got to do what you got to do to win. But as you said, I think TCU's defense is good, but I think OU's offense is better. I think Gary Patterson is going to be scheming. He's going to be trying to do what he can to stop Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray averages 356.8 total yards a game. 61.8 of those are rushing. So he's proven he's a threat with his arm and his legs, and he's really dang good. So good luck, Gary, but OU's going to win this one out.
It's going to be tough, but you mentioned it, Madeline, and they have to contain the talent of Oklahoma, but I think that they have the talent to do so. So I'm going to give you my players to watch, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go through them. Now bear with me because I have a lot to talk about, and I have some videos made for them as well, so I've got to milk this one. Let's start off with a duo that I think is potentially one of the most underrated in the country. Jalen Rager, Kavontae Turpin. Now, let's look at the OU secondary for a second. Last time they were out on the field, they played Texas receivers that were so tall you couldn't really touch the top of their helmet. And that didn't work out so well.
Yeah, Iowa State as well. We saw a little bit of that.
Exactly. Now, this is a completely different kind of matchup in where Rager and Turpin are world-class athletes. The speed that they have, they can burn you in a second, and while you're still in the flames they left, they're celebrating in the end zone. OU secondary will have to contain those two. I think they're dynamic. I think they're unbelievable. It's just up to Sean Robinson to get them the ball because when he does, they make plays in a great way. Now, one duo to another. On the other side of the football, I think that this duo specifically has a chance to win the game for TCU. I'm looking at Ben Banigou and LJ Collier. We all know who Ben Banigou is.
Win this game?
This game right here, the one that's going to happen behind us. It's going to be crazy. Now, Banigou, Big 12 preseason defensive player of the year. Unbelievable talent, had over 8 sacks last year. He started off to a great start, 4.5. The problem is you can't key in on just him. Why? LJ Collier in his senior season is starting to emerge as a very good defensive end. 6'4", 276. He can bully you. So with you not being able to double team those two, you can't really match up. And if they can apply pressure, it's been shown that turnovers can be created against Oklahoma's offense. So the number one reason why I point these two out is because we don't talk about it enough. Oklahoma's tackles are both in transitions. Cody Ford and Bobby Evans are playing completely new positions. Ben Banigou's on the right side. Cody Ford is moving from guard to tackle, and he's shedding a bunch of weight. This will be his toughest test. On the opposite side, Bobby Evans, he's still trying to figure it out on the blind side, and he's going to have to go against Collier, who in his last year as an emerging senior is really starting to play well. Those two tackles need to play against those two defensive ends very well, or things could get disruptive. And my final point, the guy that could run it all for TCU is Ty Summers. Ty Summers, to me, is one of the most underrated linebackers in the country because not only can he play inside linebacker, he can play outside linebacker, and they've lined him up as a defensive end as well. This guy can just play all over. He's a freak athlete. He's actually really good in coverage, and of course, he's a phenomenal run stopper. All of these players combined, those are my top 5 guys to watch for TCU, and if those guys make plays, I don't even think it matters what Sean Robinson does. They can make things interesting in this football game.
Kyler Murray's coming off a game where he turned it over twice. You know, and a couple of bad turnovers. The turnovers that really hurt the team, both times killing a lot of the momentum. I will say, let's pump the brakes on the Sean Robinson a little bit. The last time we sat on this show and just made fun of a quarterback repeatedly, Zeb Nolan, he's going to go off tomorrow if we keep it up. So let's pump the brakes on that a little bit if we have we not learned our lesson on this show. So now moving on back to Oklahoma a little bit. We talked a tiny bit about it earlier about the CFP situation. Can they still make a run at this thing? We all think that they can, but what's going to be the biggest obstacle the rest of the way? What's the main thing that you're looking at as being like, yeah, that's going to hurt them?
Well, I wasn't on set whenever y'all all said, do you think that they still can? I am very hopeful, but I wouldn't just say, yeah, I think they can do it. So
Hot
that
take. Hot
being
take.
that hurts me to say, but that being said, I think OU's biggest obstacle going into playoffs is already behind them. Their loss to Texas. I think that there's already undefeated team, which I know you guys are going to bring up later, like Alabama and Notre Dame, and I don't think that. And beyond Alabama and Notre Dame, you have Ohio State too, and I don't see them losing. Not only did the loss like skyrocket them down the rankings from where they were, but if Texas loses again, it's going to look bad on OU. And this defense that we have, unless Ruffin can work some magic, at most, I can see them winning a Big 12 championship, maybe. I mean, and they have a chance to redeem themselves, maybe, at the Big 12 championship against Texas. That would help them. But, you know, that loss hurt them. And it hurt them in more ways than just the college playoffs or the rankings. It hurt Kyler Murray's chances at being a Heisman.
I think probably ended his chances of being a Heisman.
Yeah.
I feel like it's pretty much Tua's to lose at this point.
Yeah. It's between him and Tua, of course, and like Tua's already the favorite, you know, and then this loss.
Will Greer fell out though.
Yeah,
Your boy McSorley, where has your boy been?
Hey,
Uh-oh.
if they had let him have the ball in that Ohio State game, Penn State would be sitting at the top of the rankings right now, and he'd be chilling, waiting for his Heisman to be delivered to his house.
McSorley is out.
Away from the Heisman discussion a little bit, Tori, you're right. I mean, if I had to bet on if OU's making the playoffs or not, I would say no. Do I think they have a chance? Yeah. Is it a good chance? Maybe not. And you know why? Because the SEC exists, and the SEC, as much as it pains us, you know, Big 12 people to say it, is really, really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have Bama, you know, obviously. If you look at LSU, you look at Georgia, you look at Florida.
Get out
He
of
was
here.
waiting.
My Gators.
Stop it. You look at Kentucky, not basketball guys.
Mark
football.
Stoops, shout out.
Hey,
Mark
hey,
Stoops.
Wilson from Dell City, starting quarterback.
That's true.
Oklahoma guy.
Oklahoma
Yeah,
guy.
there we go.
The
That promotes us up.
SEC is so good, as I said, and the committee showed us last year they're not afraid to put two teams in there. Now, it helps that both LSU and Georgia already have a loss, and both will have to play Alabama.
That's what I was
LSU
gonna
does
say.
next week, but that is in Death Valley, so that'll be interesting to see if LSU can maybe pull that one out. Georgia likely going to play them for the SEC title. That would give them a second loss. So OU's best chances is Bama running the table. Is that probably the most likely scenario? Yeah, because like we said, Bama's pretty good. But I mean, if Bama has one loss, they're beaten by Georgia, or if they're beaten by LSU, but then beat Georgia for the SEC title, I mean, what's going to happen? There's three teams that are really, really good. It's just interesting to see what's going to happen with the SEC.
I agree with you on the basis of that. You know, if Bama loses, that they could very well put two in. They did it last year. I can see them doing it. I just don't see Bama losing.
Right.
And so
it's not likely.
they'll beat LSU, and then they'll beat either Georgia or Florida. Whoever wins that Georgia-Florida game, you know, will go play the SEC championship game. So I agree with you that is an issue, but I don't think it will be one because Bama's not losing a football game based on what I've seen so far.
I mean, do you think it's a done deal that a one-loss OU gets in over a two-loss Georgia or
Yes, I do.
two-loss LSU?
I do. If OU wins the Big 12,
I'm honestly not sold
and
on
they
that.
beat West Virginia twice, or they beat Texas, they make up for it en route. I was
think
very
it's-
surprised.
I think you're right, but I think it could happen. I don't think it's a done deal that OU would be in there.
You know,
What's your
maybe we'll see.
obstacle,
That
Josh?
I think that's gonna happen because I think Bama's gonna run the table, win the SEC, and I think OU's gonna run the table, win the Big 12. So we're gonna see it. And I think OU will get put in. For me, I think the biggest problem is Notre Dame because Notre Dame plays fat nobody. Dude, oh my God, join a conference. It's so annoying that they're not in a conference. They play fat nobody the rest of the season. And when they might not run the table. Okay, they almost lost to Pitt at home. They're beatable.
But Pitt always seems to almost get teams.
Always, that's their thing. So they don't play anybody the rest of the season. It's not out of the question that they could get upset. But if they don't, they're going to be undefeated. They don't have to play a conference championship game because they're not in one. They're going to be undefeated, and they're going to put either Ohio State or Michigan in, almost guaranteed, barring something crazy.
You said that Michigan would win the Big Ten, and they're not going to, but they have looked really good.
They looked good-ish. They beat Wisconsin.
Easy that time.
Congrats.
They look good.
They lost to Notre Dame.
I still believe in Michigan.
They're probably going to put either Ohio State or Michigan in, whoever wins the Big Ten, which is probably Ohio State. They're going to put a Bama in because I think Bama's no way they lose a game. Then you got ACC's Clemson. They're kind of the same as Notre Dame, who they play.
Yeah.
And now when Notre Dame runs the table, well, there's your 4 spots. I mean, there's no other space. So Notre Dame is kind of really hurting OU's chances a lot. Maybe they'll get lucky if Clemson loses, but I feel like Notre Dame losing is more likely. Notre Dame not being in a conference is messing it up for everybody.
Yeah.
Pac-12 probably doesn't like them either.
So,
That's a big factor.
I guess I'm here to close it out, and you guys just basically ran with my point because the point is there's only going to be a lot of teams that could be unbeaten at the end of the year.
Yes.
So we've
way
talked
more than
about
normal.
it. I'm going to go in a little bit in depth here. Alabama, to me, this is what you're looking at right now. Alabama at 1, Clemson or Ohio State at 2 and 3, and Notre Dame at 4. Now, Alabama's toughest game is going to be against LSU down in Death Valley. I don't care who they play in the SEC East. Well, I'm a huge Florida fan, grew up a big Gator fan. I will be the first one to admit the Gators don't have a chance against
Even though
Alabama.
Florida beat LSU.
Yes, I
Okay.
didn't even
Just
pick them
saying.
to win that one either, so how about that one? All right, now let's go to Clemson. No one talks about it, but Lawrence is starting to settle in, and Travis Etienne, oh my Lord, he is playing really, really
Them
well.
surviving that Syracuse game, it kind of feels like, that was the chance. That was the chance to get him right there because
One
Lawrence didn't
opportunity.
play. Trevor Lawrence didn't, he was hurt.
And finally, after the whole Clemson thing, to me, Clemson's toughest chance to lose will be the ACC title game.
Against, who? Miami?
I
Like,
don't know. I don't
Miami's
know.
bad.
Because the ACC is garbage. And finally, to me, Ohio
They
State.
do play NC State today, for what it's worth.
I like Ryan Finley. He's kind of cold. He's nice, but NC State doesn't have the
Here's what's funny
talent.
about that, though, is that, Oklahoma fans and a lot of Pac-12 and stuff are probably pulling really hard. They want NC State. Come on, NC State, we need you. They're undefeated, too.
Yep.
If they win that, who they play the rest of the way? All of a sudden, NC
They
State's in
would
the
have had a
dang
loss
thing.
if their game versus West Virginia hadn't gone canceled.
And finally,
Yeah, that's true. They did luck out. They probably would have lost that
to
game.
me, the team that
forgot
no
about that.
one talks about is Ohio State. I've been high on Dwayne Haskins for a very long time, and right now, Dwayne
He's up there in the
Haskins,
number 2 in the Heisman ranking.
I think Haskins is an unbelievable quarterback. Have you seen him sling it? Have you seen him sling the deep ball? It is one of the finest touches I've seen in my times of watching college football in a long time. So, with Ohio State playing so well, to me, their toughest test will be Michigan.
Oh, for sure.
Towards the
Is that,
end of
where
the
is that
season.
game? I honestly don't know.
It's in the
It's in Ann Arbor,
Big
right?
House.
Or is it in Big House?
It's no.
I'm confused.
No.
We didn't do our research.
No, it's in Columbus. It's in Columbus.
Is it in the shoe?
Yes, it's in the shoe because we were thinking about going to that. You
That's
remember?
right, because it's the same week as
We're
Morgantown.
thinking about going to the shoe to watch that game, but now that it's at home, Big Blue doesn't stand a big chance. So
No.
those three teams, they take the top ones away. You talked about Notre Dame. There just isn't a spot open. So I think the top 4 in college football have a great chance to just run the table, and Oklahoma could just be looking from the outside.
Literally almost any other season, I would say, OU's sitting at 9 in the middle of October. Yeah, win the rest of your games, you're going to be fine. It's just like, I don't know if the loss, and they're still behind Georgia, by the way, which is not helping.
Georgia's interesting.
So,
Florida's got to beat
and,
them.
And for what it's worth, they're ahead of UCF right now, but, throw them in there too, because if they were on the table, they're not supposed to think about previous seasons. They beat Auburn last year, and I feel like that would make them, if there's 3 undefeated teams and UCF, who's undefeated, there's conversations.
How funny would it be if Heupel made it over Oklahoma?
By the way, UCF is really bad. They would get crushed
That'd be
by
good
anybody
for him.
good.
Yeah.
Throwing that out there.
I can see OU winning the rest of their games this season and not really rising that much in the rankings, just because what is ahead of them, there's so much talent, it's so good. They might be sitting at 7 when the season ends, even though they win the Big 12. It could happen.
We'll see what happens, but it's a long road.
You know what OU's hoping for? They're hoping for Texas to win their games and get a rematch with Texas. Texas is already, what are they, 7, I think, right now?
Yeah.
That would probably be a top 7, top 6, top 8 game.
How fun would that
At the end of
be?
the season,
That'd be fun.
you could win that. That'd be a huge statement. We've seen in the past, having that one last big statement is really important.
Especially over the team that beat you.
Yes, really important. So we'll take a break for now. Thank you, Tori. You did great. First time doing the remote team. We'll go back to in studio. We'll be back later for calls, all that fun stuff. Sam will be back later too. Sorry. And sorry, Sam. So we'll take a break and we'll be back here in a little bit.
Welcome back to the studio here on GamedayU. I'm Meredith Mulkey, and before we continue with our coverage, it's time for this week's Sooner NFL Standout. This week, for the second time this season, we hand the award to Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals, who played for Oklahoma from 2014 to 2016. Mixon has emerged as the top runner in the Bengals' backfield with his strong play thus far, and he very nearly delivered a win for Cincinnati in the tilt with the Steelers last Sunday. Mixon rushed for 64 yards on 11 carries and added 4 catches for 20 yards. His lone touchdown of the game came late in the fourth quarter and put the Bengals up 21-20, but Antonio Brown reeled in a long touchdown catch in the waning seconds to give Pittsburgh the victory. Despite the loss, Mixon's performance made him an easy pick for this week's NFL Sooner Standout. All right, guys, well, moving back to college football, who do you have in your top 4 for the playoffs at the end of the regular season?
Well, previously stated, I mentioned that I think that 4 teams have a very good chance and will go undefeated. So those 4 teams are the teams that are in my playoff. Crazy how that works out, right? Wow. Alabama is the best team in the world, and they have the best player in the world. Tua, 1760 passing yards, 21 touchdowns. How many interceptions does he have? 0. Still riding that pick. Not going to throw 1 pick the entire season. Alabama is averaging 54 points a game as an offense right now, and when you have a defense that is that good, you're not going to lose a game. And the number 1 seed is going to be Alabama. Then you have Ohio State right after them. They have another Heisman favorite in Dwayne Haskins, right? And once they beat Michigan State and Michigan, they're going to move right through, get to the college football playoff. And then you have Clemson. They have their quarterback situation squared away. ETN is averaging 9.2 yards a carry. That is filthy. That's disgusting. And then right after them at the 4th seed, you got Notre Dame. They're going to enter the bowl season, I think, undefeated. No one's really on their schedule going to test them. So with those 4 teams, you're not going to have any losses. They have all their ducks in a row. They have everything in front of them. Just continue to win your games. It's as easy as that. And those are going to be the 4 teams, as I said, in that order, 1 through 4 seed in the college football playoff.
Winning all those games is a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
When you're good, yeah. You're able to do both.
All right.
I don't have a lot of change from yours, but as I said earlier, I believe Oklahoma can go the rest of the season and go undefeated, and that would then get them a spot in the college football playoff. Alabama obviously is a team that is not going to lose. They're a wagon. They're probably not going to lose all year. This might be one of the best Alabama teams we've ever seen, which is saying a lot in recent years. We've got Tua playing out of his mind. The defense is still really good. They still have a really good run game. Alabama's not going anywhere anytime soon. Ohio State, on the other hand, I think they lose a game. Like I said, only 1 unbeaten team, but I think that game will not hinder them enough. I think it'll be a loss either to maybe Michigan State or an Iowa or somebody like that. Still make the Big Ten championship. Still get the number 2 seed in my CFP. Following a good season for Ohio State under Dwayne Haskins' leadership. Oklahoma, like I said, I believe can run the table. A 1-loss Big 12 champion, I believe makes the playoff with the contingent that Notre Dame loses. And that obviously makes my number 4 team after Oklahoma, Clemson. But for Oklahoma, they have West Virginia as their biggest test left in the season. I think they can overcome that test if they play up to their potential. But like I said before, Clemson is my number 4 team. They lose at some point, but I don't think it's going to be a damning enough loss that they cannot overcome it. They're a really good team. They have a really good quarterback. He's young. He's got a lot to prove. He's overcoming an injury at this point, but he's good. He's good enough to make that defense look really good and get to the next step.
All right, I think we all kind of can agree on who we have as our number 1 seed. I'm going to go with my number 1 seed in this year's college football playoff as Alabama.
Hot take.
Yeah, not really. I know I said they could lose to LSU, but that's a far off chance. I still think Bama can just about run the table with the rest of their schedule. Tennessee, LSU, Mississippi State, the Citadel, Auburn
Watch
as well.
out.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa, as you've been saying, has really turned it up this season. And then falling in at number 2, I say Ohio State. They've got athletes just about at every position. Chris Webber is someone we've seen kind of dominate this college football landscape. And look at this ball here by Dwayne Haskins. He's just been serving it. Yeah, he's been serving it up on a plate to all his receivers, letting them get it. And falling in at number 3, I have to go with Notre Dame. They've got such an easy schedule following the rest of their season. I really can't see a team testing them at any point in the season. I say their best chance is Northwestern. At Northwestern, they seem to cause a lot of problems. And then 4th, I'm going to go with Georgia. They've got some marquee matchups in these next 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, excuse me. They got a bye week this week. Florida and Kentucky. So I feel like they've got some resume patterns that can really give them a chance to sneak into this college football playoff.
So you think a 2-loss Georgia gets in?
They've got a chance. They've got a chance. I mean, SEC is so strong this year. They're so deep.
Yeah.
They've got Alabama, LSU, Florida, Kentucky, Georgia. Mississippi State. The list goes on and on. So I think they got a chance.
And you think an undefeated Notre Dame is a 3 seed?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, not to harp on you a little bit, but you picked Notre Dame to go undefeated and get the 3 seed, and then you picked LSU to run the table and not make the college football playoff?
I said could. This isn't. It's not like I'm setting in stone, seeing the future as clear as can be. These are chances. I'm just trying to predict what I think can happen.
One thing that's not talked about: Dobbins and Weber on Ohio State both have 500+ rushing yards each. That's like the filthiest 1-2 running back punch I've ever seen.
Hey, Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine back in 2016.
Boy.
They can
Peterson, DeMarco Murray. If you're telling me J.K. Dobbins is anywhere comparable to Adrian Peterson.
Well, they're not the same player, so no, I wouldn't compare them. They play very differently.
That's fair. No, I just don't think J.K. Dobbins and Chris Webber are they're a great duo. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're one of the best we've ever seen. I think we've seen a little bit better.
I mean, that Ohio State offense has played this year better than it has in a long time, and that is saying something because they have had a national championship recently. But I think, to your point, the reason that they have such good running back play is because of Dwayne Haskins. He has 28 touchdowns this year, leads the NCAA, only 4 interceptions. When you have a quarterback that can open up a defense like that, it makes them respect him, and then therefore have a lot of running room for their running backs.
Yeah, so you don't think Clemson's going to get in?
Correct.
And you have them losing just one more time?
Just one game.
And you think that's enough to put a 2-loss team
All right, you're picking my projections apart. I get that. But, it's been a long week. I don't think Clemson.
Do I think Georgia's better than Clemson? I absolutely do.
Yeah.
But
they're going to have to play.
I feel like that just never matters in the end. They're like, which team? They just look at the numbers, and then, of course, if a team has the same record, they dive more into that, and they look at things like, I don't know, like teams they played against or stuff. But I think if you see 2 teams that are in respectable conferences, one team has made the playoff like every year that it's existed, and they only have 1 loss, and another team has 2, I think they're just going to be like, Clemson, send them in.
Yeah, and the problem with Georgia, if they play in the ACC, easy in for me. The problem is they have to go through a gauntlet in the SEC. The SEC West is looking respectable this year, like they haven't in the past. Florida looks good, Kentucky looks decent, and then they're going to have to go and then either play Alabama, most likely, could play LSU in the SEC championship game. Georgia has a lot of hurdles left that they have to get over, and I just don't see that happening.
I don't know. They've suffered 2 losses, but this LSU loss that they suffered last week, it's going to turn out to be a good loss. I think this LSU team, as I talked about earlier, is really good. I think Georgia still got a shot. They've got athletes everywhere, all over the field. I mean, as you said, I don't know. It's going to be hard for a 2-loss team to sneak their way in, but
I'm curious as to how you think that a 1-loss Oklahoma team gets in.
Notre Dame loses to USC last game of the year, as we've seen last game of the year without a conference champion.
I love my Trojans, but
I don't know, man.
That's a stretch.
Crazier things have happened. It's a hot take, and I understand that, but crazier things have happened. That freshman quarterback for USC will have a whole year under his belt by that point. USC, it's not like they're some garbage time program. They've got talented athletes that can make plays if they have the right game plan, and it could happen. And I'm saying, like Christian kind of said, it's not set in stone and anything can happen in college football. I just think this Notre Dame team is susceptible to a loss, and that leaves the door open for Oklahoma. And I think, like I said earlier in the program, Oregon loses again, officially eliminating the Pac-12, which Oklahoma still has a lot of work to do, but if they're on the table, I think they're in.
Okay. Well, I
think Oklahoma's got a good shot if they're able to run the table.
Yeah, especially just because you just have recency bias. Like, they were in it last year, and they impressed. That Georgia-OU game is a college football classic.
That's kind of...
You know what they can do in big moments. You can say, we don't take any of that into account, but you definitely do. Like, Alabama, they put them in last year, and most people were saying they didn't deserve it. A lot of people thought Ohio State was more deserving than they were last year, and they're like, let's just put Alabama in. Even though they didn't even play in the SEC title game, they didn't even have to play that last week. They sat there. They put them into the number 4 seed, and, well, at the end, the college football board was...
proven correct.
They ended up being the best team, and they didn't even have their best quarterback playing the whole time, and no one even knew.
No, I agree with you on that for sure. And the problem with Oklahoma is they're going to have to go to Morgantown on Black Friday, and it's going to be wild, as it always is in Morgantown. But they'll be favored in that game, and if they go undefeated, they're going to play most likely Texas again in the Big 12 championship game, which will be another exciting matchup between those 2 teams. And if they get that win, I think that's a big win over a team they lost to previously, which will bode well in the eyes of the committee. And I think that something that people don't really know for sure if the committee takes into account, people want to watch Kyler Murray. It's going to get the committee and the people in the NCAA more money to watch Kyler Murray, more viewers than it would to say. I mean, Notre Dame has a big rep too, but I think people want to watch watch Kyler Murray.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, Ian Book.
Yeah, who's going to be more excited to watch on TV? And like you said, Oklahoma has produced some classics. Even if we most of the time end up on the losing side of those classics, Oklahoma has produced a lot of classics in the long run in the NCAA postseason history.
I would have to agree.
I'm with you. I definitely want to see Oklahoma in the playoffs, but I think it's going to be very tough for them to do, especially with the top 4 teams right now. So we'll have to see. All right, we're going to send it back out to our remote team one last time for their final thoughts on the OU TCU game. Stay with us.
Back inside M&G Carter Stadium. Really nice stadium here in Fort Worth, Texas. One of the cooler ones in the Big 12.
And the basketball arena.
Absolutely. Calm before the storm. 50,000 strong, about to be in here in just a little bit, going crazy. Going to be full of frogs in here. It's going to be nuts. All right, guys. It's that time again. Sam's back. You can start for us.
Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
It's all good. We love you. We'll let you start, bud. Final word. Go for it. Let's do it.
My final word is statement. This is a very easy opportunity for OU to make a statement that they're not done. A lot of people are counting them out now, especially now that the defense, we don't know what we'll see. Some people say, hey, just if the defensive coordinator is done, maybe they're just kind of throwing it. They're just going to go and throw the towel and give up. And I don't think they will. I think they're going to have a lot of fight. I think that they have a chance to make a statement, but they should. They should be out here dominating this game because obviously it's the Oklahoma program that we know. The defense needs to step up. They need to get to the quarterback, cause some chaos early, get off to a good start, and I think that'll kind of pave the way for the rest of the game.
Really good, Sam. My final word is resuscitate. For Oklahoma, the winning
Spell that
died
real quick.
2 weeks ago
Use
at
a
the
normal
Cotton Bowl.
word.
I'm trying to spell it over here.
Texas killed them, but I don't think they are dead for good. I think they could be resuscitated today with a win over TCU, and if they keep winning, potentially, as we talked about, college football playoff spot is still in the works. It could still happen, but they need to be resuscitated today.
Clear. Bring them back to life. All right, here we go. I know you guys are curious about my final word.
Yeah, it's weird. That's why we're
Shrug.
curious. It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it's shrug.
I was wondering actually where you're going with this.
All right,
I'm
you ready
actually
for this?
curious.
I always like to bring interesting final
I know how to
words
spell
into the
that. I
equation.
can't spell.
Yes, you can spell shrug. So here's what you do. You know how sometimes you trip, you fall in life, you get down, and you get up and you're like, silly me, and then you walk another 500,000 steps without falling ever again? Exactly the situation the Sooners face right now. They fell.
Exactly.
But then when you get up and you beat the ever-living crap out of TCU, you get up, you beat them, and you go, oops. So you shrug your shoulders and you move on moving forward with a statement win. I think as the Sooners walk off the field. Are you good? All right, I'm going to get back
Try
to
yourself.
If they go out on this field and they absolutely dominate, it will be a metaphorical shrugging of the shoulders to the rest of the country. Like, hey, you think we were gone? Nah, son, we're still right here. Oops. But, I mean, I think they have a great chance to make a very strong impact on their season right here. Yeah, they fell, but they got to get back up. And they got to show the country it was just one mistake. It happens. But, hey, we keep on going.
Yeah.
Shrug it off.
Well, okay, so I said earlier, that we should have learned from a lesson, making fun of Zeb, making fun of Iowa State with the way that game went.
Yeah.
I didn't learn. Exterminate. OU is going to bludgeon TCU tomorrow. It's going to be horrible. They're going to be frying up some frogs tomorrow, whatever that's called. People eat frog legs, right? That's a thing. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's going to happen tomorrow.
I don't think corn frog legs are a thing, though.
We're going to do it. We're going to try it. Exterminate is my word, if that wasn't clear. This game's going to be really, really bad. It's going to be a blowout. I think Oklahoma coming off the bye, coming off the loss, they're embarrassed. It's just so many. TCU's just not very good. I think just the stars are aligning for an absolute throttling tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm liking a beatdown tomorrow. Okay. Call outs. Let's go.
I was a little flustered.
What a
after that one.
seamless transition.
It's going to be a beatdown.
I'm really cold. That's not helping.
I thought you said you were a man. You're just manning up
This
without
dude
the
was
jacket.
bragging about
been
not
one-
putting on a jacket. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
going to power through.
It's been 2 hours. Okay, go for it.
I was repping a hoodie. I was nice and warm. My call out, I talked about him earlier. Are you done? Are you good?
I didn't speak, Sam. I'm just trying to help my friend.
Thanks.
He's dying of hypothermia.
My call out. I talked about him earlier. It's going to be the offensive line, and you'll touch a little bit more about it later too. But like I said earlier in the show, the offensive line got absolutely bullied last week. Finished with 222 rushing yards. Only 116 of those came in the fourth quarter, which was more than they had through the first 3 quarters. They were averaging about 3 yards a carry up until that final quarter where they finally started to get it going. And this TCU defense, they've got a tough matchup. TCU 38th in the country in rush defense. They get lots of pressure on the quarterback from a lot of different ways, from Ty Summers, Ben Bannigu, LJ Collier. You talked about him earlier. Garrett Wallow's got a couple sacks on the year. They're going to line those players in a lot of different places because we know that's what Gary Patterson loves to do, kind of mix the signals and mix the lineups. And the offensive line has to improve in the first half in terms of creating a run game. We talked about this a couple weeks ago with Baylor and with Texas, and we still haven't seen it. Like we said, they're still kind of in a Rodney Henderson hangover, I guess we could say is the right word, because we don't really know if they're ever going to get back to where they were before Rodney got hurt. So the offensive line needs to step up, impose themselves, and protect Kyler Murray. That's going to be a big key to the game tomorrow.
O-line has their work cut out for them, for sure. My call-out's probably a bit of an obvious one, but it's Ruffin McNeil. This guy, I mean, Sooner fans' hopes are high after dealing with Mike Stoops for such a long time. They want to see Ruffin do something. It might be, I think it's going to be a little bit of a rough game for the defense today, just because they're making so many changes. Rough game, I like that. Didn't you do that on purpose?
Ruffin McNeil?
But anyway, Ruffin also has his work cut out for him. I'm looking for big things from Ruffin and the defense going forward.
All righty, here we go. You mentioned it, Sam. My call-out is something that not a lot of people talk about. I think it's crucial in this football game. Cody Ford made the transition as an offensive guard that was, well, bigger, to put it lightly, to now a right tackle who's trimmed weight and making a transition very effectively and smoothly. The problem is Ben Bannigu, as we talked about, will line up over him on the right side. They want Collier on the back end, and they want Bannigu right in the face of Kyler Murray. Cody Ford's been making this transition very easily, and I'm very impressed with him. I personally think he's one of, if not the best offensive lineman on the team right now. This will be his toughest test. Ben Bannigu is for real, people. He might be playing at the next level a whole lot. If Cody Ford goes out there and he proves to the country that he can face pass rushers like this and shut them down, man, that's helpful for the Sooners, and that's helpful for his career moving forward as well. I want to see what Cody Ford brings to the table because he has been so great so far this season. Another great game from him, and this guy has to be talked about as one of the best offensive tackles in the country.
Yeah, offensive line needs to step up for sure. Kyler was running for his life in the Texas game. Can't be having that again today.
First time he looked uncomfortable the entire season.
For sure.
That can't happen. That can't happen consistently.
Normally for my call-outs, I'm calling out somebody who's like making me angry, and I want to see play better. But this time I call out somebody that I like and somebody that's playing well. It's Curtis Bolton. Curtis Bolton's playing well. He's doing a nice job. He's probably, him and Kevin Murray, the 2 guys in the defense you can kind of rely on, probably the only 2 right now. But, you know, with all the stuff that happened supposedly at halftime of the game against Texas, Curtis Bolton tried to quit the team, that he got into a fight with Mike Stoops. He denied it. But, you know, there are a lot of reports that it happened. I am going to believe him, but it's still out there. If anybody on this team could use a good game to put everything past him, probably Curtis Bolton's probably pretty high on that list. I'm expecting a good game from him. I think him and Kenneth Murray are going to do what they always do. They're going to combine for a ton of tackles. I think Curtis Bolton gets 20-plus tackles. And I think he gets a turnover, something they don't do very often.
All right.
I don't know if I want to decide. I'm going to say strip sack on Sean Robinson in the second quarter with 7:32 to go.
Wow.
So if you don't get this right, do we get food or something?
No.
Oh.
So Curtis Bolton, I'm expecting big things from him tomorrow. One of the funnest guys on the team to talk to. He owned the thing. You know, they said the halftime, got in a fight. He came, he answered questions about it, he explained everything. He's a really cool guy. I'm looking forward to him having a good game today against TCU.
Good.
Okay, so scores, predictions. Scores, predictions. I'm not transitioning
My
to be
math
saying very well.
says, let me add the 1. I'm going to go 45-28 OU. I like OU in this one. I think they're going to hang tight a little bit. I think it's going to take some time getting adjusted and playing Ruffin McNeil's defense in real time. There's a big difference between practice and game time. I think they might struggle a little bit early, like you said. Darius Anderson, Shewo Olinalua, Kamante Turpin, Jalen Rager. There's a lot of weapons for Sean Robinson to use. I think TCU gets a couple early, hangs in tight, but eventually I think this offense is just too much for TCU to handle. 45-28, and expect Kyler Murray to have another big day.
Yeah, my score's pretty similar to that. I'm going to say 41-27 Sooners. Like Sam was just saying, I mean, the defense has made a lot of adjustments. They're going to have to, make sure it works in a real game as opposed to, making it work in practice. But I do think the Sooner offense, like you said, Sam, I mean, They're talented. As good as TCU's defense is, they're not going to be able to keep up with it. OU gets a win, but it's not a huge win yet. I think even if the defense is going to be a lot better under Ruffin McNeil, it's going to take some time. It's not going to just take a bye week to make it better.
You know, we've gone through this whole show, and I haven't mentioned it, but I'm under the weather, and I just got to prop myself on the back. I haven't coughed into the mic one single time. And so while I'm sick, TCU's going to be sick of playing Oklahoma by the end of this football game. 48-21 my final score. To me, I'm looking at one guy that I think could really have a strong impact. We'll go with our boy Hollywood. I think this guy has a great chance to have a great game. I mean, TCU secondary is good, but I don't put them up with TCU secondaries that have played in the past. I think Oklahoma's playmakers, we talk about duos. I mentioned a couple earlier in the show. There might not be a duo in the country like Marquise Brown and CeeDee Lamb. Those two might have a great game today. If Kyler Murray can get them the football, TCU secondary just can't match up. I think 48-21 is your final score, and a lot of that has to do with the playmaking on the perimeter from Marquise Brown and CeeDee Lamb.
Over, under, touchdown and a half for both. You say over for both, under?
The combined?
No, like an
One and a half?
one and a half touchdowns at the for Marquise, one and a half for CeeDee.
Take the over on Hollywood, under on CeeDee Lamb.
I feel like CeeDee Lamb gets more like the red zone ones. Though.
Yeah.
I like OU big. If that wasn't clear, 59-24. Oklahoma's going to win this game. They're going to put up a lot of points. I think they're going to jump on them really quick. They're going to run. I think we might see one of those like 21-0 before you've even sat in your seat type of starts. The defense can play really well. I think they'll get some turnovers. I think this game's going to be really, really ugly, total blowout. And I think that they get some points late, kind of like UCLA did, kind of like some garbage time points. Not to get up to 24, but I think when the starters are in, they're going to play really well. And we won't see a lot of the starters in the fourth quarter, put it that way. 59-24, Oklahoma.
The word exterminate wasn't clear enough, so I'm glad you cleared it up and made sure that everyone knew that OU was going to win this one.
Yes. I was trying to think of a word for like hunting frogs, but as far as I know, that word does not exist.
I think it's frog hunting.
Yes.
Frog hunting?
Well, that's
Put a little
boring.
hyphen in there. That's bullfrog.
Before we get out of here, send it back to Stuart team to finish. Any quick final thoughts you want to throw out there about the ball game here today?
I think you're overly confident in the defense. I mean, yes, they want revenge, but they're doing new things, and they just haven't been that good. I mean, you can't. I don't think it's too much to ask of them to just turn it around and all of a sudden look amazing. I just don't see.
I think they're going to play with more passion and energy than they have before. That's going to make up for it.
I can see that.
I think you'll see a lot of energy, but that doesn't exactly make up for fundamentals. I mean, you've seen poor tackling consistently throughout the season. You've seen poor coverage. You've seen players bull rush the quarterback instead of breaking down their feet and actually making a good sack or a good play. I think this is going to take a couple weeks to really get into these players' heads, to put them in that mentality. This defense will improve, I think, as the season goes on. But I think it's just kind of a process. You just kind of play, trust the process.
You know, as we wrap up here, I, for one, we all know this throughout the season, have been very high on the TCU Horned Frogs. And while I don't want to say they've disappointed me, because they're still a very, very good football team, they're not where they want to be. In the past year, they played TCU twice, and they beat the crap out of them. A very good
Both times
TCU
were not very
football
close,
team.
no.
I think that could be a little dangerous. I've mentioned it. TCU's got dudes to make this thing a little bit interesting. It's up to Oklahoma to go out there and execute. I think, while things could get a little bit interesting early on, Oklahoma can make this thing bad quickly. But if you don't go out there and you play with energy, but you don't play with the fundamentals specifically, Gary Patterson will capitalize on it, and the very, very good TCU football players will make sure they expose it. So this thing could be interesting, but it couldn't be if Oklahoma goes out there and does what they can. So this is going to be a fun game for me. You know, we're from the area. I've been here since I was a kid going to games here. This is going to be an unbelievable atmosphere. But Oklahoma should make this thing boring in a hurry.
If you're Lincoln Riley, you cannot afford to take your foot off the gas. I've seen it too many times.
You know, OU hasn't lost back-to-back games since, I believe, 1999. That's the stat that's been thrown around a lot this week. And this game really reminds me of 2015, whenever they lost to Texas, and the very next week they went to Manhattan, Kansas, another purple team, and they won that game 59-0. And I think we're going to see something along those lines today. I think it's going to be really, really ugly.
You know what that reminds me of? The Kansas 55-0. The next year when they almost upset OU at home 45-42 and Baker had to make a comeback. We could very well see something like that where after OU beating them pretty heavily 2 times last year, TCU coming out with a fire and really wanted to get revenge. So who knows? This game could go a lot of different ways.
I think the defense is going to play really well. Another thing that's kind of fun is that Ruffin McNeil, when he was at Texas Tech, he said the night before the games, he would take these players and he would ask them about certain plays and strategies, like what are you supposed to do in this scenario?
I love this.
And if they hesitated even a little bit, he'd throw it out because he doesn't want his players having to think. He wants to make it as simple and easy as possible. If he does that again and they're just playing simple and not overthinking, they're just playing football, they're better than TCU.
Yeah.
They have better players, they're a better team, they're better in everything than TCU. They will do their thing and they'll win by a lot.
See what happens.
That's maybe I'll be way wrong. I don't know. We thought Iowa State was gonna be rough too.
We are professional jinxers.
Yeah, we haven't been nailing the score predictions. We were like Florida Atlantic will be close, and it wasn't. We're like Iowa State will be a blowout.
And
we don't know what we're talking about. Whatever. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Studio team will wrap it up. Meredith and the squad in there. We'll finish things up. Fun show as always. Good to be back. We'll be back next week at home for Oklahoma versus Kansas State. So for Colin Kennedy, Mal Robert, Sam Brown, myself, Josh Galloway, thank you for watching Game Day U. Stick tight for the studio team to wrap things up back in Norman.
Welcome back. We're going to close out the show today by breaking down the top 3 games of the day. Guys, let's start with a team we talked about earlier, number 6 Michigan at number 24 Michigan State. Who do you have, Spencer?
I'm taking Michigan. I think they're head and shoulders above Michigan State this year, although I do think Michigan State's going to be tricky. I don't think that you can count them out in this game, but just because of the rivalry, I still think Michigan is a better team. They are 69-36 overall in the series with Michigan State. They have 5 ties as well, and Michigan is allowing 100 less yards per game than Michigan State is. Michigan State lacks run game every single week. They do not have an established run game at this point in the season, and their quarterback, Luwerk, I struggle with it. I've heard it pronounced both ways. He's a turnover machine. He hasn't done much all year. Their offense has not been competent week in, week out, and I really think Michigan is catching their stride at the right time of the season, although I don't think they've played many great opponents yet, and their back half of their schedule is a little bit more loaded. I still think Michigan wins this game.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on that one. Michigan has lost 9 of the last 10 of these matchups. Like that, for an underdog to have won the last 9-10, I mean, Michigan State's been better than Michigan the previous years, but it seems like Michigan's due for a big win in this rivalry. Like you said, like you harped on it, Michigan State's offense has been abysmal up to this point. They played well against Penn State and really only scored 24 points, which isn't great, but for a Big Ten team, that's good. For a Big Ten offense to be 115th in rushing yards in the country, that's not going to be a recipe for success against a Michigan team that has been one of the best defenses in the country so far this year.
Yeah.
I think Michigan takes this. I think Michigan is like we harped on it a long time earlier. Michigan is a good football team, and they're going to be really good down the stretch. They could give Ohio State problems. They definitely take this one pretty easily, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you guys. I'm going to go Michigan over Michigan State. I think Michigan State is not too good. They had a bad loss to Arizona State early in the year that was kind of disappointing. Arizona State, Herm Edwards.
They almost lost to Utah State week 1.
Yeah, they've had some bad losses, but a win over Penn State, that shows they're kind of going on the upward trend. I think it'll be a good game, but as I said earlier, Michigan's legit, and they're going to take number 24 Michigan State in the win today. Promise.
I'm glad we all agree.
Ooh, a promise.
A promise.
A promise is dangerous.
Set in stone. You heard it here first.
I take my promises seriously.
I do. That's why I said it.
All right.
All right, next game of the day, number 16 NC State at number 3 Clemson. What do we think?
I got Clemson winning this game in a very close fashion. This is their toughest game left, eye test, on the schedule. I don't know how well the other teams are going to play, but as of now, this game will be the toughest game left for Clemson before maybe the ACC title game or before the college football playoff. Last 2 years, Clemson won both weeks, but it was just by 7 points both times, and it was just one touchdown. And last year, NC State kind of squandered it. Like it was their game to lose, and they lost it, and Clemson capitalized. Etienne should absolutely just run all over them as he did everybody else this year. He has been unstoppable, like actually unstoppable. He's averaging a first down basically every time he touches the rock, which
unparalleled in college football.
Yeah, and
it's gonna win you a lot of football games.
The only way that NC State poses a chance at all is if Ryan Finley exposes Clemson's, because I think the defensive side, their secondary is probably the worst part of their defense, as it is with many college football teams, because it's hard to get a solid secondary in college football when you have that revolving door of talent, right? And he leads the ACC in pass yards per game with 324 a game, I think. And so that's the only way they could maybe come out on top, but I'm going Clemson.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. I think Clemson wins this game. For the degenerate gamblers in the crowd out there, it's a 17.5-point spread. There's no way Clemson covers that. Not a chance. I think this game, like you said, going to be really close. NC State has yet to be tested this year, to be fair. But I think they're good. And it's just no statistical thing to back this up. But this feels like a game that people are really just marking down like, oh, upset watch, upset watch.
Just because they see two numbers next to the names, and like, that could happen.
And I think people want Clemson to lose. Most of the nation wants to see upsets, wants to see the underdog
And they've
win.
been close to losing already.
Yeah, exactly. They've looked shaky in recent weeks, didn't look great against Syracuse. I just think this game is too obvious to be an upset. I don't know if that makes sense. But games like that where like even the team who is favored to win should be watching out, I think Dabo will have this team well coached, well prepared to take down an NC State team that has really not been tested so far.
NC State's never beaten Dabo.
Not once.
Not once.
Wow, that's shocking. I'm gonna have to go against the grain here, and I'm gonna have to go with NC State. I'm not too high on Clemson and all that they have to offer. I think Trevor Lawrence hasn't quite proved himself yet. He's been given the keys to the offense, but he hasn't shown that he deserves them yet. I think Clemson still has a long way to prove. They're coming off a bye week, though, so they'll have a whole lot of time to prepare and get mentally rested and get in the swing of things for NC State. But I still got NC State. I think Ryan Finley, as you said, he's one of the quarterbacks that not a lot of the national landscape has talked about.
He can take the top off.
Yeah, but he's disgusting. He can let the ball fly. So I'm looking forward to see what they've got. I believe they play at 2:30, so that'll be a good game to
So you
tune
think,
into.
wait, is NC State about to run the table then?
Oh, my goodness. We're not talking about this anymore. No, they're not running the table.
Okay,
they had
just wondering.
They had a game against West Virginia earlier in the year. They got canceled by Hurricane Florence, which is unfortunate. I really wanted to see what they had to –
Looking out.
I wanted to see what they had to – don't look over him. I wanted to see what they kind of had to offer, and I feel like that would have been a good test, but we didn't get to see it. So this will be a good one to watch, see how good NC State really is.
I mean, if they win this game, who's to say they can't run the table and win the ACC?
No.
All right. And lastly, number 12, Oregon at number 25, Washington State.
I got to go Oregon, right?
Got it.
You know I have to. Herbert, as I said, Justin Herbert is really coming into his own. We talked about how he's just launching up draft boards right now. He is really just putting his foot down and stepping on that gas and just doing what he can to get his name out there. And a lot of people are like, maybe he might go number one if the New York Giants are the worst team in the NFL this year. There's a lot of bad teams in the NFL this year. That's a different story. But Oregon's averaging 42 a game, allowing 24 a game. Washington State is averaging 41 a game and allowing 23. On paper, that's about as close as you can get without being exact. So it's not to say that this won't be quick. I mean, this won't be like a very quick and fast-paced game that goes for a lot of points. But obviously, I'm going Oregon. They're my one-loss team around the table. So.
Yeah. And my pick for this will definitely be, I think, ruffle a couple of feathers. Maybe not ruffle a couple of feathers. Definitely yours. I gotta go with Mike Leach in prime time, baby. It seems like every year Mike Leach manages to pull out a win out of nowhere. He did it against Washington last year. The man is crazy, and we love to watch him. He loves the spotlight. He is going to pull out this win. Their only loss so far this year was at USC on a Friday. Everyone knows like Fridays can be weird. No one really wants to play college football on a Friday. That's for high school. Mike Leach is going to bring out this team. Oregon coming off a big statement win against Washington. Maybe a bit of a letdown week. Kind of let their guard down. They get really excited in the midweek. They don't practice as hard. There's a lot of things here that I think could play in Washington State's favor. So for me, you got to look to see Washington State pull this one out.
I disagree with you on this one, Sule.
Let's go.
We've been talking about Oregon all day. We've already said all the keys that they have to win throughout the season. We've already said who's the top players. I think Oregon takes this one. Maybe not in the landslide. I think it's going to be one of those tough Pac-12 matchups, but I think Oregon, Justin Herbert, take this one easy.
All right, very, very quickly, who do you guys have for your upset picks, Spencer?
I'm taking Maryland to beat Iowa.
Go Terps.
Maryland beat Texas. Texas ended up being pretty good. Maryland over Iowa, that's what I got.
I'm going to go Colorado at Washington. Colorado only has one loss this season. Again, 17.5-point underdogs. So if you're a gambler out there, take that cover. I like Colorado to at least cover against Washington, if not win.
Colorado does look good over Washington. I got Indiana over Penn State. Indiana's always a tough place to play. It seems like they usually pose a threat. They had a double overtime game with Michigan a few years back. It seems like it's always kind of an iffy place to play. They usually put teams into their best, so we'll see what they got.
All right, and then another quick one, OU or TCU, who do you have?
OU 45-28.
Boomer!
Yeah, I got OU in a big one, 52-21.
I got OU 45-10. Shiloh said it yesterday, and I agree with her.
All right, and who do you think will be the MVP of this game?
The OU game?
Yes, OU.
I think Kyler Murray.
Good choice.
I see a big breakout game for Trey Sermon. Not really a breakout game, but if we're going to control a game like
Statement game.
Statement game, as I think it was Sam said. Big game for
It's a really
Trey Sermon.
cool football word, statement.
Statement is a good one. But Trey Brown getting the nod over Parnell Motley. I'm going to have to go Trey Brown. I'm excited to see what he does. He balled out against Texas, so let's see if he can do it again this week.
Yeah, I think we're all excited to see OU back on the field today. Well, thank you for joining us today for Game Day U. Be sure to tune in next week for all your college football news. Have a great game day.